Hey, have you ever worried about something that actually never occurred? Well, I'm laughing because if that's you, you're like most people, worrying about things that never actually happen. Mark Twain had a really great quote. He said, I've worried about so many things in my life that never actually have happened to me, right? If you think about that quote and how important it is to understand it, you'd realize that when we're worrying about something, we're really just time traveling to the future. And we're trying to control that thing or fix that thing, right? I was just on a call with a gentleman, and he said, doing a training call with a group of people, and one of the gentlemen on that call, his name was Danny. He said, "I'm always trying to fix something that hasn't happened yet," right? And so, if that's you, you're going to want to stick around for this video, but it's going to help you understand why this is happening and how you can at least reduce it. My name is Phil Ciccio, and I am so excited to work with you here today and share this idea with you, because this is one of the things that most of my coaching clients really are struggling with, right? Where they're time traveling into the future. In other words, they're here now in the present, nothing bad is happening, okay? But they're worried about what might happen in the future. And this is challenging for most people. It can be really detrimental to most people. So I know that I'm kind of making fun of this and maybe giggling a little bit here because, sometimes we just worry about things that are silly that never actually happen. But we also can worry about things that are really serious. And those things may never happen either. And what I call this is needless suffering, right? You're in the present moment. You're thinking about what might happen in the meeting, or what might happen with this relationship, or what might happen with my health, or what might happen in the future. And you're essentially time traveling there. And then you end up playing this movie in your mind of what that's going to look like. And typically, if we're worried, it means that the movie isn't a good one, right? It's a bad movie. And your brain doesn't know that you're playing a movie. It really can't differentiate between what's real and what's imagined. Whatever you imagine, the brain thinks is happening now. It doesn't know the future. It thinks it's actually happening now. So a simple example would be this. You have a presentation tomorrow in front of maybe your leadership team. And you're worried about it, right? Because it's your first time presenting in front of them, and maybe you're not really good as a presenter, you have difficulty public speaking, and you're really anxious about it. The reason why you're anxious about this anxiety comes from worrying about the future. And so you're laying in bed tonight, and you're thinking about the presentation. And you're probably thinking about, maybe you miss a few words, or somebody asks a question you don't know the answer to, or something like that happens. And you're playing out this whole movie in your head. Now you're in your bed, you're not actually in the presentation, but your brain thinks you are. So it begins to release the chemicals in your body that cause that stress, whether it's cortisol, the chemicals that make you feel anxious. And you begin to toss and turn, you can't sleep, you're breaking out into a cold sweat or something like that. And if you could just wake up, and I don't mean that like physically wake up, I mean be more aware, you'd realize that I'm not even in the presentation, I'm in my bed. And if you could just be in your bed and not in the future, you would have no anxiety, right? There would be no need to have it if you could be in the present moment. And so there are a lot of techniques on being in the present moment, like breathing, and there's all kinds of techniques you can look up, and some are on my website. You could take a look there on how to be more present and in the now, right? But here's the thing. The challenge for most people is, how can I keep myself present? It's very difficult to do. But working on this, it's a practice. It's an exercise. You've got to continue to practice. When you find yourself time traveling to the future, come back to the now with a few deep breaths. Sometimes if I'm standing up, let's say I'm standing up and I'm doing a presentation, I'm worried about the outcome of the presentation. I know that I got to be in the presentation, not after it. I need to be in it. So I want to feel my feet in my shoes on the floor possibly, right? You can rub your fingers together, and just the feeling of rubbing your fingers together brings you into this now, this present moment. Or breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And I actually like to almost see the air going into my nose and out through my mouth, sort of this like white, wisp of air. And I can see that, and that brings me into this present moment and gets me out of the future where I can perform now, right? Because the key here is to make sure that you just let the uncertainty unfold, right? As the future is unfolding, it's now anyway. So let it unfold, let the uncertainty of it unfold, and manage it in the moments. Now, I know that's easier said than done, but I want you to be more aware of what's happening here, because you're ultimately just time traveling into a future place, creating needless suffering, because the brain, the conscious part of your brain, is watching the story, and it begins to worry. Let me share an illustration with you. You can see what I mean by this, okay? For those who've been following me, you've probably seen this illustration in many forms, but here's one that maybe you haven't seen yet, okay? And I'll share it with you. So just for a moment, okay? If you haven't seen this before, allow this circle here to represent your mind, okay? The human mind. Now, your mind is an activity. It's not your brain, although it's partly your brain. Your brain's an organ, okay? But the mind's an activity which exists in every cell of your being. And the mind and the body, so this would be your body, are connected, right? So this is why when you think a thought in your mind, you can feel it in your body. Like a really great example I like to share with my clients is just imagine for a moment you're holding a wedge of lemon in your mouth. And just try to really picture this, okay? Just bear with me, picture this. And you take this lemon, you put it in your mouth, and you squeeze all the juices in your mouth. So your mouth just filled up with cool, sour lemon juice. Swish it around in your mouth a little bit. It's on the inside of your cheeks, your tongue, the roof of your mouth. Now allow it to go to the back of your throat, and now take a big gulp. You just swallowed cool, sour lemon juice. You're probably salivating just a little bit more than you were a moment ago, like I am. And the reason why is because your brain was watching the movie that you were playing, okay? It doesn't know that it's not a movie, so it still activates the chemicals in your body to cause you to salivate, whatever that is. The salivary glands open up or whatever it is, and you begin to salivate because the brain doesn't know that you're imagining that thing that you're thinking about. It doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. So that's the mind-body connection. Now, the mind is split up into two parts, right? So we have the conscious part of our mind and the subconscious. Most people understand this concept. Now, at the conscious level, now I'm not going to go too deep here, okay, because there's a lot to go into here, but just real quickly, at the conscious level, this is where we think and we create our stories. So right now you're thinking about what I'm saying. You could also be thinking about something else completely, right? You could be into the future, thinking about tomorrow, and you're playing out a movie because our thoughts are images like movies playing in our mind. When we think a thought, and we allow that into the subconscious, so we open this little doorway here and we let it in, it creates a feeling. Thoughts create feelings. So right now, if I think about my wife, or I think about my children or my grandchildren, you can see that I'm smiling. The only medium expression that I have of my thoughts and feelings are this physical body. So I had a thought, it created a warm, loving feeling because I'm thinking about my family, okay? You can see, and it activates my body because all your feelings must move through. The only medium expression we have is through the body in your actions, your body language, your facial expressions, the salivary glands get activated. All of these things are happening because of a thought created by a feeling moving through your body. That's the mind-body connection. So let's talk about worry and anxiety, right? So now I do want to share something about anxiety because I'm going to use the word anxiety quite a bit here. I am not talking about anxiety that people have that might be, that need clinical help, right? Or therapy, right? This is the anxieties that are from trauma or chemical imbalance. I'm talking about your everyday anxieties about worrying about the future, right? Worrying about what's going to happen on your first date, worrying about what's going to happen if you don't do something to, take care of your physical body, worrying about your children heading off to school today, worrying about the meeting that you're going to be getting into, or maybe some difficult conversation you're going to have. I'm talking about those daily anxieties, okay? Worrying about the uncertainty of the future is what I'm talking about. Now, obviously, we can have real anxiety that's probably requires, clinical attention by this, incessant worrying about the future or worrying about something so traumatic or so big for you, right? So I don't want to dismiss it, but I also want you to understand that, there are everyday anxieties that I'm talking about here, okay? So how does that happen? So we think a thought about the future, okay? So the thought comes in, we think about it, we start to play a movie of what this future is going to look like. So if I use the presentation tomorrow and I think I'm going to botch the presentation, at the conscious level, right, at the thinking level, we begin to worry. So I'm going to just write worry here. Worry. Okay, so we're worried at the conscious level. Now, when we're worried at the conscious level, the feeling that we're going to feel based on that worry, we're going to call that feeling fear. So we have worry at the conscious level, we have fear at the subconscious level. Now we have worry and fear in our mind, right? So that's in the mind, and that must manifest through the physical body. So worry and fear is going to manifest through the body in what we call anxiety. So anxiety, right? So the body has anxiety. Now, this anxiety is real, okay? I don't want to dismiss this. This is real, but it's coming from an unreal place because nothing's happened yet. We're not in the presentation. We're not on the date, right? We're not in the thing that is causing you to feel anxious, right? We're making it up. We're making up a story. We're playing a movie that's creating the anxiety. And this is why I call this needless suffering, because why are you suffering when nothing's happened yet? Now, if it does happen like you're playing it out, then you're going to suffer then. And I'm okay with that because you're in it. It's the now, and you're going to manage that suffering. You're going to manage whatever the problem is, right? Botching the presentation or, messing up your date, whatever. You're going to have to deal with that, right? That's, as humans, we adapt, and we're resilient, and we can do that. So why would you want to suffer needlessly? So how do we minimize this anxiety? Okay. Well, who has control over the story? I can tell you this, you're the only one that has control over that story. Nobody can make you worry. Now, we worry about our children, we worry about things that are going to happen, but no one can make us worry. We're creating our own worry, okay? So either, now this is important, okay? Either try to be more present and stay in the now, so you're here, not in the presentation. That'll probably, evaporate your anxiety because you're no longer in the future. You're here now and everything's good. Look, everything's going good. It's a beautiful day. Okay. So there's probably not going to be any anxiety if you could really be present. Maybe, dump yourself into something that you enjoy doing. Get really focused on something you enjoy doing. It could be your work. It could be golfing. It could be being with your significant other. It could be playing with your children. There's a million things you could be doing that will bring you more presence and cause you to not be thinking about tomorrow or next week. By the way, you can also have anxiety by worrying about the past, because you can time travel into the past and your brain doesn't know you're in the past either. If I go back to the laying in bed thinking about somebody who you broke up with 3 years ago, right? And you're laying in bed thinking about them and how bad that went and all this. That was 3 years ago, but you know what? You're going to feel that pain now in bed. So it can go either way. But for this video, we're talking about anxiety about the future. So what could we do? Well, you could be in the present moment, or you could change your story. Maybe you could look at the future presentation as it's working out. Maybe you look at the date as being a wonderful time and experience. Maybe you look at that future as something that is pleasurable if you're going to time travel into the future. I recommend that you just let the uncertainty unfold and just, as it's happening, then you manage it. That would be the best thing to do. But if you're having trouble in the beginning, doing that, being in the present, letting it unfold, then maybe you just change the story here, right, to something that's really positive, and that won't create worry. A positive story, right, it's going to create some other thing, like it's probably going to create a sense of, maybe faith or hope or something like that. So I'm faithful that this is going to work out, or I'm hopeful, not hope like, worried about the future, but I'm hopeful it'll work out. That won't create fear, right? That'll create another feeling, maybe a feeling of well-being or a feeling of calmness or a feeling of I've got this, right? And none of those will create anxiety, right? That'll create a vitality and energy and enthusiasm and acceptance and all the things that are necessary for you to move forward. So you have a couple of choices here. You can try to be more present, be in the now, because when you're in the future, when you get there, it's going to be now anyways. So just be in the now and let the uncertainty of the future unfold. That would be the number one recommendation I would give to you, and practice that. It's not easy. You're going to keep going back and forth. You can get pulled into the future and you got to pull yourself back. But if you're having trouble, at least during the period of time of trying to be in the present, then what you could do is maybe create a better story for yourself. So as you're time travel into the future, the chemicals that get released in your body are dopamine and chemicals that make you feel good, not chemicals that make you feel bad. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please click on the like button. If you know somebody who worries a lot, right, you could also send this to them and share it with them. And I appreciate you. If you want to subscribe to my channel, please do so. And I'll be shooting some more videos. I've got plenty of that you can go back and look at as well. And you can go to my website. But I appreciate you being here. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.